Well, hi, and welcome back to Mr. America Heart. Listen, guys, today I have a special guest with us. Um, some of you may know him already as the Godfather. Some of you may not. We're about to find out a little bit more about the man. We're going to go deep today. I have the owner, the originator, the beginning of 3DMJ, bodybuilding coach, uh, Jeff Alberts. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. That was a good
All right.
introduction. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm not done. I'm going to go on. So hey, guys, you're going to see me looking off over here because I have some notes on Jeff, and I don't want to miss anything. So I want you all to know that this man right here in front of us, I'm going to give you some details. 52 years old, 37 years training. He started in 1986 at 14 years of age. First competition was back in 1993. There's a lot of details. This man's been in a lot of competitions, okay? Over 40 shows in total. So there's a ton of experience. Pro cards in how many, Jeff? Two organizations?
Yeah, two organizations.
Right.
WNBF and NGA were my pro cards.
That's right. So we have two-time pro card winner, Jeff Alberts, competing at the world championship level in natural bodybuilding. Well, now you're how old? 52 right now.
I'm
So that's
52.
so you've competed at the world level for how many years now?
First world championship was in 2011.
Mm,
So I'm kind of a late bloomer. I didn't get my pro cards until I was 38.
right, right. And I want everybody to know, all of y'all watching this right now, Jeff's energy may not seem super, super high right now because, and I might seem a little bit higher because I have a few more carbs and calories in me than probably he does. But Jeff is preparing right now for what, Jeff? Why don't you let us know?
We're doing WNBF Worlds.
How many
So
weeks you
yeah,
got?
we got it's like 13, 14 maybe, somewhere in there. So yeah, energy, like I'm usually not as energetic as I am now because I'm pretty mellow and low-key guy, introvert by nature. So yeah, I'm not like one who's going to like energize a room. I'm more of the fly on the wall. Let me observe, listen, and then when it's appropriate, I'll kind of pick my spots to, say my piece.
Right. And this is something that I gathered from you. A lot of the subscribers here, I'm going to welcome you to go to Jeff's Instagram post, his page, uh, 3DMJ Godfather. I'll put the address down below so y'all have the maybe I'll flash it across the screen too. But it'll be down in the video description here. And why do I say this? Because this man truly is a silent warrior. I mean, if you watch him train, he's got that garage gym. You do most of your training in the garage, Jeff?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
All right. So I have a garage gym myself. That's one of the reasons why I was really interested in watching you work out a lot. And those workouts that Jeff does, when I tell you guys, this man is the Zen master of form, not just form, but lifting big weights, relatively speaking, big weights, and doing so with a face that's so, I mean, relaxed. He's not wasting energy on it. It's going straight to the muscle. Tell me, is that something you try to do, Jeff?
That's purposeful.
Mhm.
It's a skill, and it's
Right.
definitely taken me some time to like get really good at it. Because, back in the day when I was younger, yeah, I was like a lot more in like externally intense. Because oftentimes you watch me train, people think like this guy's not really working out hard. But a lot of that fire is like within. And I've learned that skill of composure watching other sports. Like I only like pay attention to so many bodybuilders nowadays. Like I kind of look everywhere to kind of figure out, okay, what can I take from other areas that I can apply towards bodybuilding? So one thing I've taken away from tennis is the composure factor. Because if you watch like, a five set tennis match, tie break, like who's mentally staying composed?
Mm.
They're the ones that are usually excelling on the court. It's the guys that kind of lose their composure where it's like the ball's going left, it's going right, it's going into the net. So I'm like, okay, let me apply those principles into my own training. So like guys like Roger Federer, Djokovic, all these guys, like, they're the ones that are mentally, stronger than the other ones. So with the
See,
form, yeah, it's like you get into a, you know how it is, man. You get into a middle of a set, you know, halfway in, it's not too bad, but as soon as you get to those grinder reps, it's like it's a fight or flight response. It's like either you stay in it, you fight it, or you basically abandon it because the stress just gets way amplified. So oftentimes you see some people cutting their sets short. You're like, dude, you had like 3 or 4 more reps in there, you know, and you want to do more volume, but you can't even complete the set you're doing now with the same type of intensity that you need to have to be productive. And then you have other guys that, you know, they just break their form because the pain, the burn, you know, they start, you know, using momentum. They use like hitching, leveraging to move the weight. So mentally, I keep myself calm through that. Yes, it burns. Like you don't know it's burning because I'm staying composed. It's not easy. It's hard, but you know, I go from A to B as precise as possible because of that. So it's like when you look at these other sports, you know, guys at the free throw line, right? Like you see the ones that are nervous, they brick a free throw. You know, you see someone else, man, like you know, Steph Curry, he's not missing free throws. So yeah, I know you want to chime in.
no, just I'm keeping my hand up like I'm out of composure over here. Okay,
Say
I'm
you're
losing.
breaking form, man.
I'm I'm completely losing my composure here because you are like speaking it. You're saying it. You're right. You're 100% right when it comes down to it. You know, people on the outside cannot see what's going on the inside, man. When you're firing it up in those last few reps, and that intensity is sky high. It's amazing. And then here you are. And of course, many people back down, but you're driving through. And yes, I've seen it, especially when you're on that pec deck, especially when you're deadlifting. I see the face is solid from beginning to end. And the analogy of the tennis, it's going to come up later on. I have a question about tennis, believe it or not. In one of my questions, you'll see it'll come up. I'm glad you brought that one up as well. But this has got to affect, please share with us the longevity factor, your body. Talk to me. How's that body feeling after so many years of training?
It was feeling a little bit beat up like a couple of years ago. More so just my left shoulder was like really kind of bad. You know, so, and the cause for that was, you know, doing like press flies, like heavy press flies, you know, benching, that type of thing. And the, I would say just the stability factor, like trying to stabilize the barbell and, you know, it's heavy loading like that. It's just like it's irritating it. So humility had to come into play. Like, okay, let me put the ego aside and let me figure out another way, another approach where I can get just as effective training. And I gotta like give some credit to one of my team members, Nick Licamelli, because you know he's a PT, he's someone who we refer to, and so he kind of gave me some things to kind of work on. And it's more about like, hey, we know what the root cause is. Let's find something that you can do that's a little bit more safe, comfortable, doesn't cause discomfort, and let's gradually work that up. So long story short, things what I learned was like slower eccentrics, using pauses. Obviously, when you do that, you can use lighter loads, but yet it still feels really heavy. And just, you know, over time, just doing that, like it was pretty humbling too, going from, you know, let's say, you know, 2 plates or more on a bench press to going, okay, now I'm going to use, like go from that to doing just push-ups with a very close grip to keep my shoulder compacted so I don't have to stabilize. Very humbling just doing body weight. And then gradually moving up in weight in that. So doing weighted push-ups to where it was kind of irritating the shoulder again. Like, okay, now what do I do? Let me go back to that old Smith machine I got that everybody kind of trashed on, you know, back in the early 2000s, you know, everybody's trashing on the Smith machine. But thought process is, well, I don't have to stabilize the bar. It's stabilized for me. So let me narrow my grip, let's tuck my elbows in, let's put my thumb over the bar. And, you know, certain way I put the bar in my hand prevents some of the pain. So these little nuances that someone else can't really teach you. It's more like, let me explore, that I was able to kind of figure out like, okay, I can actually do this press. It's more like a close grip type bench press on the Smith machine, but using slow cadence, 3 seconds on the way down. I don't, in my head, I don't go 1, 2, 3. It's just I'm kind of just resisting gravity is probably the best way to describe it. I'm just kind of just pushing against gravity, letting the bar naturally come down. And then I set the pins up. So the bar just basically hovers right over my chest. It stops right there and I pause. The pause just relieves my shoulder for a split second. And then I go from there. It's like a slow start of the concentric and then just naturally build speed as I go. So I don't want to use like a lot of force because that causes pain. So just by doing that process, I went from like 95 pounds up to now, maybe on good days, 205, 215 for, reps of 8 to 10. It's not a lot of weight, but when you do it in that fashion, it feels it feels hard. And when
And,
you're yeah, go ahead.
and so that is a major theme on your channel and with you, just as a bodybuilder, longevity has really come across. Okay. And your concern or your everything you've learned about training, let's say over the years, and using your own personal experiences to share with others who you're teaching right now through your videos that you're posting, you're actually showing that. There's going to be a million comments down below, by the way, about the Smith machine, because I am the guy. It's one of my most, I've done multiple videos on it as to why no. But let's be real about this one thing is I speak in terms of the bell curve, the majority. There's always outliers. So let me handle some of those comments before you all start typing away, okay? Going aggro on me, is that Jeff right here is one of the guys who is, definitely, and he's definitely one of the people who benefits from it and benefited from it coming out of an injury. It's not the case with everybody, but certainly in his case, it's worked great. And I can't go knocking that and saying, well, it's complete trash then. I mean, in your case, it's been successful and it's worked very well for you. The fact that you've been all about longevity and overcome a couple of injuries along the way in such a way with the help of physical therapists is also awesome. Speaking about your team 3DMJ, let's talk about that for a minute, okay? Tell us, how did you become a bodybuilding prep coach? Is that the terminology we want to use? Tell me that first.
I think that's part of the job description, but I don't think it defines everything about what we do. Because we have, different things we coach outside of just prep, recreational lifters, fat loss, muscle gain. Like there's like just depends on the individual, what their goals are. And so, yeah, I'm not just strictly a contest prep coach, but I will say it's a passion. I love coaching athletes to the stage because obviously I've been competing for 30 years. So, that's kind of where the fire is at for me. But I also find a lot of benefit in helping people that they just want to look better, and they want to look and feel better. And oftentimes too, it's not just coach, it's like your mentor, because sometimes you change people's lives. Like the way I kind of just see bodybuilding or fitness or whatever, it's like just a vessel, whether it's, hey, we're trying to paint this picture or we're trying to build this physique. A lot of the same principles apply. You have something, there's a purpose, you're chasing it. And if you can bring people together through that vessel and you can help each other out, I mean, it's about community, in the end.
Right. So tell me this. So are you strictly, is it everybody welcome, natural, enhanced? Talk to me.
We primarily work with natural athletes just because I'm not equipped to coach enhanced athletes because I don't know anything about it. So out of my scope of practice. So I'd be very arrogant for me to take someone on like that and try to coach them up when they probably have more knowledge on it than I do. Like it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to stay in our own lane because that's where we excel.
Right, right. So you mentioned the team. Please tell us, who is the team, just a general idea and what kind of experience they have.
So we have Dr. Eric Helms. He's basically our science guy, if you will, our researcher. So he heads that department. He does a little coaching himself, but primarily he's the go-to science guy. He started out as a coach because when we first formed 3D Muscle Journey back in 2010, we were all coaches. Eric Helms, Alberto Nunez, one of our head coaches, Brad Loomis, head coach. myself. We're the four owners that started it, and we were all like coaching at the time. And Eric kind of branched off into the researching field. But us other three were still full-time coaching. And then we have another coach that we brought on a little more than a year ago, Brian Miner, who is awesome, like awesome. Like he's got like the science background. He's got, in the trenches experience. He's a pro bodybuilder himself. He power lifts, so he's just well equipped, to be able to, coach on all fronts. So we got a pretty good team, and I think we all like work well together. We all have same philosophies and principles. I mean, we're all different, of course, we're all individuals, but as a team, there's a lot of the same principles and philosophies.
So, so that brings up the question. Well, first of all, I want to correct myself. I started out by saying uh, you're the owner and started 3DMJ. It was a team effort from the beginning?
Well, I started 3D Muscle Journey as my own personal blog. So
That's
when I
right.
was prepping for the stage in 2009, I was coming off a little bit of a layoff. And up until that point, for me, like my drive, my goals was more about getting pro cards, winning shows, just highly competitive.
Mm.
And I mean, I missed out on so much by having that type of mindset. Like I wasn't one of those guys like you'd want to like have a conversation with backstage, because I'm there to win. I'm not there to be your friend. I'm there, because I train so hard, right? Like I train harder than anybody else mentality. Like I'm gonna get what's mine. So I was like a little closed in. I mean, I wasn't mean backstage, but I wasn't, let's say, going way out of my way to engage with people. Well, when you like have that tunnel vision and you get to a certain show, and this is one of the shows I did in 2002, I lost by 1 point, missed out on the pro card, and I just felt depressed. Like, why did I put all this work in? What was the point of this? Just to lose by 1 point. So just like stories like that, it's like fast forward to 2009, I was like, I'm gonna do this from a different perspective. I need to change my ways, because in the end, it wasn't bringing me happiness. So like,
Mm.
okay, I'm gonna prep, and I'm gonna prep just for the process, to have fun. And this time I'm actually going to meet some people. I'm going to be friendly backstage and open myself up. I mean, long story short, I met the guys. Like I said, I already had the personal blog. They kind of had a following on bodybuilding.com forums. And they're like, we can do some good here. We can help the community. We can make it grow. Because here on the West Coast and here in California, the information was kind of behind. Like it was like a lot of old school things, cutting water and those types of stuff. So like we need to change the approach. So we're like, hey, let's start coaching, let's start helping people. So we kind of said, all right, let's do it. We went all in, and as a side bonus, I ended up grabbing 2 pro cards in the process. So the goal wasn't pro cards, but it ended up happening. And I think just the fact that the stress levels through the prep was like completely different, completely changed, just a lot more relaxed. So I think everything kind of just fell into place. Like years of experience just led into that.
So that leads me into a question. You said in the middle of that right there, you said that the West Coast was behind. That may be a surprising comment to those watching who just think bodybuilding, because natural bodybuilding, the majority of the competitions, majority of the culture of natural bodybuilding, competitive arena, let's say, uh, was mainly East Coast. Yes.
I think it had a stronger base on the East Coast back then, like New York and all that. Because you had some pretty like dominating shows over there, like the Hercules, the Natural Mania. Worlds was always back east. So like once Natural Bio started to kind of pick up over here on the West Coast, it's like the Muscle Mayhem at the time, which was the capital city. Like the first couple of years doing it, it's like the practices, like you're kind of hearing guys backstage talking like they're like NPC competitors, cutting water. Like you can't do the same things like natural and enhanced. Like it's different things that you have to do. So it was like, okay, cutting water, like, okay, that's the worst thing you can do. Obviously, you're going to flatten yourself out.
Mm.
Cutting sodium, same thing. It's like you're going to flatten yourself out. So it's like, okay, we got to start, helping the sport out on this side of the country. So that's where that kind of, we started out actually as we wanted to be kind of like a magazine company, like go to shows, promote it, write articles about the shows. And, we felt like that's serving the community, but I think coaching is probably going to help a lot more. So that's why we like distribute, like even to this day, like I would say 90 to 95% of our content is free.
Wow. 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 I had no idea. That's amazing. So so this is the statements you just made in bodybuilding. Natural bodybuilding is a completely different animal, completely from drug bodybuilding. Or enhanced, I want to be kind, enhanced bodybuilding. And these days, tell me, how popular is natural bodybuilding? Is it on the upswing? I know that, and before I let you answer, I was promoting in the WNBF. My wife and myself, we ran the LA down in Los Angeles when we were living there for about 4 years straight, and we were instrumental in helping to get the Worlds out onto the West Coast for the first time. So you're welcome. And
Right.
and so and that led to a whole bunch more West Coast shows. And with the success of what we were doing, and in looking back at that time period till now, I don't know, since I left promoting, I know that it was a challenge. When we started promoting in 2016 was our first show, 2015 or 16. That was right when the NPC shows were blowing up in numbers from 150 competitors to average 750 to 1,000 on a local show. And ours, we started out with like 40, right? And so these days, how popular is natural bodybuilding in your view overall? What would you say compared to 5 years ago or even 20 years ago?
That's a good question. I think it kind of just ebbs and flows, to be honest with you. Like it's hard for me because there's just so many different layers to look at. Like I can't really look at it from, let's say, maybe the lens you have, because I've never been a promoter. I know promoters and I know what it takes. I've seen them like put things together, and I think some of the athletes, they don't have that same perspective. And just, to be frank, they kind of shit on promoters. Like they should be doing more. They should be doing this. They need to do this. They need to do that. But they don't see behind the scenes like what it actually takes to promote a show. And let me tell you, I have no desire to do it. So I just want to say thank you for actually giving a platform for us to be able to do what we do. As athletes, to have somewhere where you can actually present all your hard work and celebrate, whether it's a big show or small show, I think there should be an appreciation towards that. But also, just the fact that just your time, and the effort. So it's really hard for me to say like the popularity. I think like the enhanced side is always probably going to be above. I mean, it's global. It started out like that way back when. So
Well, tell me this though, in your business in 3DMJ, just in general, you deal mainly with the naturals. That's both recreational as well as stage bodybuilding. So how many athletes do y'all deal with on a regular basis between, let's say, the whole team? How many
it
athletes do y'all,
it
or how many?
depends on yeah, it depends on the coach. It varies. Like usually my roster is anywhere between 30 to 40 athletes. And I organize it to where like, certain athletes check on certain days, so I don't overwhelm myself. It's kind of like training volume, hey, let's make sure I'm keeping this capped so the quality remains super high. And I can keep my composure, right? Like it's like with any job you do. And I used to work in an auto plant for 16 years. And anytime they ran overtime, especially when they're running daily overtime with an added Saturday on there, you can see the morale goes down. People start getting tired, the morale goes down. The quality of the vehicles, like, for people who want to go buy cars right now, like the old saying is don't buy cars on Fridays and Mondays, because that's where people call in sick. So they have to have someone else cover their job. And well, that person's not going to be as good as the real person that does it, right? So you have to make sure that the overall quality, the overall volume is where it needs to be. So again, looking at, whether you're looking at training, using training as a way to improve your coaching, or it's a way to improve just like your daily life. Like there's sometimes we just get in these little bubbles, especially as bodybuilders. We think I'm gonna just go on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and I'm just gonna follow these certain people. Like you're kind of just keeping yourself in a bubble. Like
Very
again,
good.
going back to the tennis thing or the basketball thing, like I look all over the place. I could look at, someone in a grocery store, how they're loading their cart, and see how they organize and how they're loading the cart, So like when I do check out my groceries, like I'm gonna put the heavy stuff here. I'm gonna put the boxes here, the rice cakes here, because when it goes into the bags, it's gonna be a lot more efficient for me to get the hell out of the store.
Your analogies are awesome. You're obviously a thinker, and I appreciate that a lot. You're right about one thing. I will piggyback off of what you said, and that was the promoters. It was, I think, only because I was sort of born to be a sales guy-ish. You know, I love talking to people and continuing to talk, and sometimes a fast talker. And by the way, I want to point out one big thing, which I want you to know and anybody interested in your work to know, and that is I charged top dollar for sponsorships for my show when my wife and myself were promoting the LA. I charged top dollar for entry into our show. Okay. I charged top dollar for everything I could along the way. And the reason being is that that's how much my time was valued by me and my family and my wife as well, her time. So when I tell you, you said promoters and all we do, and I'm not a promoter today. And the reason why, you can't pay me enough to do it. There you go. At the end of a year, we could go on a nice vacation once, and that would be it. It's over. The amount of money that I net in the end, you have to totally love doing it in natural bodybuilding because, and I'm the guy that was charging a lot. Okay. When it comes to you, Jeff Alberts, 3DMJ Godfather, the wisdom that shoots out of your mouth and that I notice, not just from your IG, but even in this interview right now, and the listener, I just want to point out that whatever this man is charging is not enough because you're putting him in charge of, you're submitting yourself to the wisdom of this man and his team, who is well formulated with an R&D specialist in there as well. I mean, you cannot lose. That's what it sounds like to me. And I've seen the results in his athletes, a bunch of winners. And I'm talking about not just, I've seen the pictures, not just the competitive athletes and the pro cards and the winning of the shows and the best shape of their life, but also the ones who are everyday trainees. So whatever they do charge, it's not enough. Okay. A man once said to me when he knew how much I was charging for whatever I was doing, he shrugged his shoulders and he said, "Yeah, of course." And I said, "Well, it's appropriate, right?" And he goes, "Well, I think of dentists. Dentists." He goes, "You have great dentists that charge a lot of money. And then you have the $40 an hour or $40 an appointment. Yeah, I'll pull those teeth," when he could have fixed them if he knew how to fix them. You see, $40 extraction, you see, and then you face the problems down the road. So much like that, when you're trusting somebody like a Jeff Alberts, Alberto, Eric Helms, when you trust a team like this, you're trusting them with your body, you're trusting them with your health, you're trusting them with the outcome of your goals as well. How important is that to you? So I can do a commercial for 3DMJ simply because I've loved you guys for so long. And that in itself, you don't know this. I've been a fanboy of 3DMJ for a very long time. So that's why I was a little bit excited and hyped up at the beginning of this interview. So I'm settling down right now, gaining my composure. Jeff, so let me move on to another question. Are you okay if I do?
I gotta say thank you because that was a commercial. I really do appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can go ahead and you can cut this and remix it if you want and turn it into a commercial for you guys. I'm more than happy to promote you. I'm all about helping everybody else out because I believe it's seed sowing, and the harvest that I gain from this in my family is going to be great no matter what. Okay. And on top of it all, being in natural bodybuilding, my appreciation for what you all do and the knowledge base that you have and the time and effort that you're putting into it. Again, if you spend enough time with me, I'll have you doubling your prices in no time. So if there's anybody who is interested in hiring 3DMJ for their coaching and or prep, you better get to it now before they talk to me any further, because I can be their sales manager. And I'm going to tell you right now, their prices are not going to remain the same. You heard that whole speech he just gave about the quality of the work that he gives. And his life, I've seen it. Your life is very organized, Jeff. Is that not true?
Try to be as much as I can. You know, we got a 10-year-old running around sometimes. It can go take a left or right turn, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty organized across the board.
Right. So with that organization, he teaches that to his athletes. That's got to be a part of it. Is that not correct?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Structure.
Okay.
It's huge.
So tell me this. I want to have a couple of fun questions for you right now. Why don't you tell me who, in your opinion, because on my channel, they always say to me, John, why don't you use in your thumbnails more natural bodybuilders? You keep using these enhanced guys and all that. And my point, of course, is well, it did get your attention, number one. That's part of the business aspect of what I do. But then number two, there is a factor of y'all don't know most of these natural guys. I want to ask you, and I will put up pictures, who, and I know I didn't prep you for this question, what's your name for me, your top 5 natural bodybuilders of all time for whatever reasons you feel they are?
Oh,
Please.
that's crazy. Yeah, you know what? To be honest, I haven't really thought of it in that light, but
Uh-huh.
I will do my best to find 5 for you right now.
Yes.
So one guy, I guess my first inspiration, and this came right after I realized that because Dorian Yates, like I was a big Dorian Yates fan because I was a hit guy for 16 years. So it was all about Dorian Yates. And I still love Dorian Yates. Like I love what he stood for, his philosophy, his principles, like I mean, blue collar, you name it. But kind of came to a point where I realized like, okay, I'm kind of looking at the wrong people for inspiration. I'm like, I'm a natural bodybuilder. This is where my passion's at. Let me start looking there. Because at the time, like this, we're talking like late 90s, and I didn't really know too much about natural bodybuilding shows. Like I was just starting to find it. So I was like, okay, let me take all these pictures of Dorian and Nasser and all these guys off my wall. And okay, who's out there? Well, there's this guy named Rob Hope. And I don't know if anybody knows who Rob Hope is, but if you Google the name, you'll know why he's pretty inspiring. Like he's kind of like a Ronnie Coleman of natural bodybuilding. And you don't hear his name too much because it's obviously 2023, but back then, and I still think if his physique was now, like he's in the present, he'd dominate. So Rob Hope's one. Obviously, you got your Doug Millers of the world. He's arguably one of the best that's out there. It'd be interesting to see Doug and Rob next to each other, though. It'd be interesting because I do think Rob has like far better symmetry. Brian Whitaker.
Oh, let me interrupt you right there. Oh, just very good.
So Brian Whitaker, I mean, he basically won, I want to say like 5 or 6 like world lightweight championships. He finally broke through. He won the overall as a lightweight. I think it was 2015. He won the WNBF Worlds and the IFPA Yorton Cup in the same year. So highly impressive. Not the biggest guy in the world, but if you want to talk about maximizing your potential and your genetics, like I would say he's arguably the best natural bodybuilder of all time in that regards. Because we when we think bodybuilding, we often think who looks the best, like who's the biggest, like. But if you think about it, like your genetics, let's say, and your potential and mine, like let's say we get on stage and let's say you won 9 times out of 10, might not mean you're actually the better bodybuilder because maybe you're only maximizing 90% of your potential and I'm maximizing 105%. But the the audience don't see that. They only see which they see in front of you, but they don't know if you're maxing out your potential or not. So I kind
Very
of look
good point.
from that perspective. Yeah. So I think Brian Whitaker, like he's probably one of the best from that perspective. He just, in my opinion, over excelled. But he's a family man. He's just very humble. So that's someone that I kind of look up to.
Well, and apparently he's not just a family man. Apparently he's a scientist or an academic, right? And he's thumbed his nose at all social media. I mean, y'all are going to have a hard time finding anything that this man has ever put out there, at least in the last 5 years or 8 years. Even when he was a world champion, nothing. Whatever his drive was came from within, and certainly didn't do it for money or for for social media accolade, none of that. So please, that's number 3. You gave us 3.
That's 3. Okay, I'll have to say Sam Okinola. I'm not sure if you know who that is.
Yes, I do.
He's a world champion. He's my son's favorite bodybuilder, more so than me, but I'm not upset about it because Sam, he's a giver. Like literally, I've competed against Sam, and he's beaten me, of course. But in Florida, we did a show there, and they gave the awards. I got second. He got first. We walked off stage. I called my son on the FaceTime, like right after we walked off. And he's like, "Where's Sam?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, where's Sam? You don't want to talk to Dad?" He's like, "Where's Sam?" So went over to Sam. I said, "Sam, Ethan wants to talk to you." And he's like, "Cool." Grabbed the phone, started talking to Ethan, like stopped what he was doing, just won a show, pro show, just won. And took the time to talk to my son. That goes to show you like the type of person he is. Like super kind, super humble. And this is how he is like backstage with other athletes. He gives his time, has conversations with them, helps them if they need help. So that's someone that, I definitely aspire up to, to be.
I'm stopping you on that one right there simply because that's the last thing I expected you to say, and yet it's again completely inspirational. I've met people over the years who are of that quality, of that ilk, and it's great to hear that he is as well. And shout out to Sam. You don't know me. I've done a video where I did part. I used some of Jeff Nippard's a section from one of his videos, and Sam was in it. And amazing bodybuilder. But please, that's number 4.
And I'll just have to give the last spot to my entire team.
Oh,
So
wow, wow.
we're gonna call them number 1. We saved the best for last is what we did. But I mean, each one of those guys in certain ways has helped me to not just be a better bodybuilder, but a better human. Like they've actually helped change my life for the better. So it's again, like for me, it's like my early days of bodybuilding was like, let me get big, let me get jacked, let me win shows. But through this journey, through this is why we're 3D muscle journey, through this vessel, like I got another family and I have a better life. So again, like it's hard for me to put into words like how much bodybuilding means to me, but it's not for the perspective that many people probably think as far as the accolades and money or fame or any of that stuff. It's more about like just again community, being with people you care about, and just having like a common bond. That's the iron, right?
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it is. That is
Thank you
the
for watching part 1 of this great interview with world-class natural bodybuilder Jeff Alberts, also known as the 3D MJ Godfather. Hey, before you go, don't forget, hit that subscribe button and tap the thumbs up button and turn that thing blue. Stay tuned for part 2 of this great interview coming on October 1st.